matters, and it changes lives. And it can change yours.
Let's please have another round for both of our speakers tonight. At this point, the gentlemen are kind enough to field questions from the audience. So again, we're going to have 2 microphones set up, one in front of each gentleman. So please proceed forward to whichever speaker you'd like to direct your question to. Please proceed to that microphone. And again, I'd like to encourage you to please keep your comments concise and respectful.
Let's start. Sure.
I had a question for you about in the discussion.
Go ahead. I'll repeat the question. In the discussion, go ahead.
Okay. In the discussion, a lot was talked about moral actions taken by people of faith and non-faith. And what my concern is that when it comes to actions, motivation, I think, is quite important. Does it concern you at all that people of religion are always tend to be motivated by a desire to please God or please Jesus, whoever else is seeking, while a non-believer might be doing something good for the sake of doing something good? No motivation behind that at all.
So this is an interesting. You're welcome to applaud. Great question. What's your name? Adam. So the answer is it depends what you mean by pleasing God and by doing it for no motivation. I remember I had a debate with someone who we both know, Steven Pinker at Harvard, and I asked him what's the motivation for altruism? Why be good? So he talked about social good, or it makes you feel good. Very few people say that you do it for no reason at all. Usually when we say you do it for no reason, we mean you do it because it makes you feel good, even if it's against your interest, right? I mean, very few people do something for no motivation whatsoever. So the question is, what's the best motivation? Now, I agree with you. The highest motivation is to do it because you think it's right. And because you think it's right might mean because you think God wants you to do it, not to please God. I mean, if you put it that way, it does sound sort of like, kindergarten-y. Not to please God, but because you believe that this is why God put you here, that's why you're doing it. I think that's the highest motivation. But I am also aware of the fact, and all of you should be, if you're honest with yourself, that sanctions are very powerful. Let me ask you a question. Are you more likely to drive the speed limit if there's a police car behind you or if there isn't? Right? Sanctions matter. And the idea not only, what's that?
So that's what God is.
No, well, it's part of it. It is certainly part of it. The idea not only that you're doing something because it's what you were put here to do, but the idea that ultimately there is justice. Ultimately, not in a way you understand, not because God's going to punish you because you went 85 miles an hour, but that ultimately the world is just, is, I think, a very powerful motivator for people not only to do good, but to want to see good done in the world.
I think the question is good enough to demand 2 answers. I hope we're allowed to comment on each other. I could take refuge in rather insipid defense that I already mounted, that many, many good things are done by people who have no faith at all, and that should be obvious. And the blood donor ethic is the very secular one. Of course, there are many religions that are opposed to blood donation, I might add. But I'm really trying to have to go further, because God must really love the poor, since He made so many of them. And if you're doing God's work, it seems to be you're doing God's undone work. Why is it that all these people were created in the image of God and left to welter in poverty, misery, early childhood death, death in childbirth, and the rest of it? The religious come with mob bucket and say, now I'll clean up after my deity. This seems to be a nonsensical and rather creepy position. And I would add another. If you take the largest worldwide does this, filling in soup kitchens, doing this and that. I would say that the church which does this and says that you mustn't use contraception, that you may not terminate a pregnancy, that the use of female empowerment to cure poverty is forbidden by canon law, would be better off staying at home. More people die and suffer because of the efforts of this church than have their suffering alleviated by it. I mean very sincerely what I say. It's not just not a proof of the goodness of religion. It's one of the many ways in which the wickedness of religion, in the retarding of human emancipation and health and wealth, is made obvious to us.
Thank you.
I have a few questions. Should I separate them or ask them all together?
It's a very good ontological point. Potentially very good.
Yeah, we're monotheistic. You got to pick one.
Pick your best shot.
Alright,
That's one who's been in your position.
what are your views on a soul?
I think he has one.
What are my views on the soul?
Like, does it exist?
I think it might exist as something in the species. I mean, there's been talk of the world soul. There's quite a lot in German philosophy about that. Of the still sad music of humanity, as words. I don't think individuals are equipped with an X factor inside themselves that survives their death. No, I don't think that. But I think that we are capable of hearing secret harmonies. We are capable of appreciating the numinous and the transcendent, just as, alas, we are prone to see miracles and supernatural interventions where none exist. I think the great cultural work is to, for example, preserve the Parthenon building, which I've written a book, and I'm very interested in. If that building was to be destroyed, I would feel personally as if I suffered an amputation. But I don't care about the cult of Palestine. I don't care about the Eleusinian mystery. I don't care about Athenian imperialism. We can appreciate all the harmony and symmetry of Greek art and what went with it, while having cleared the religious rubbish out of the building. We're going to have to be doing this a lot more if our culture is going to survive the challenge of theocracy.
I need to ask a corollary question to all of you, and also, obviously, by implication to Mr. Hitchens, which is, if in fact you're purely a product of evolution, there is no supernatural element to you. You were born with DNA that you did not choose, into an environment that you did not choose. Where do you get free choice? Where do you get free will? Scientists, by the way, biologists, claim you don't have it, which is a perfectly consistent position. If you're a determinist, that's fine. But if you believe that you have free choice, I want to know where it comes from if you don't have something like a soul that's transcendent.
Ah, well, I'm sorry, I understand.
Please, I want you
Wait,
to.
what's my question first? Okay.
It's your choice.
There are two possible answers. If you think that there is...
Can you hear him?
Can you hear me?
There we go.
I thought I had a carrying voice. Was I wasting my time with that last harangue? Very well. If you aren't a biological or scientific determinist, you think the free will question is interesting, there are two possible answers to it. If you ask me, do I have free will, or do we? I would say, yeah, I think so, because we don't have a choice. But at least...
Okay, that's clever, but it doesn't actually answer it.
At least I'm being ironic, and I know it. Whereas someone who says, sure you have free will, the boss says you have to have it,
I'm just
isn't
asking.
even being ironic.
I'm asking if you think you do. Forget the irony. Tell me if you think you do. I haven't heard from you yet.
I will say, breaking my usual rule of strict adhesion to rationality and empirical evidence, I would say that I like to think so in my better
And where do
I don't
you
think
get it from?
I don't think the determinist position can actually prove itself. At least I know that I'm being
Where do you get it
ironic
from?
and I'm open to the uncertainty principle. But to say, of course you've got free will, you've been given it by orders from on high, is to make a statement that's quite literally nonsensical.
I just asked you,
Contains
where do you
its
think
own
you got it
negation.
from?
Contains its own negation. He's asking for the question. So that's my answer.
That's his way of saying he doesn't have an answer for the question. Where do you think you got it from if you think you have it? I'm just asking.
I think that since we're born into a system ruled by randomness and uncertainty, that it's very unlikely all our choices are predetermined.